Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Sebastian City Council meeting to order. Please stand for the invocation given by me and the Pledge of Allegiance given by whom? Mr. Hill. Okay. Sebastian lost a great citizen this last week, and this is a poem that will be read at his funeral tomorrow. It's called The Dash, poem by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of her birth and spoke of the following date with tears, but he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved her know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day and all your blessings. May your wisdom guide us as we meet tonight to do the city's business. Grant us your peace and direct our discourse that we might make decisions that benefit the citizens of Sebastian and at the same time are pleasing to you, Lord. O God, you are the source of all life. In you we live and move and have our being. Keep us in life and death in your love, and by your grace lead us to your kingdom through your Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gilmore.
Here.
Vice Mayor Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Coy.
Here.
Councilmember Hill.
Here.
Councilmember McPartland.
Here.
Thank you.
Under agenda modifications, under consent item E, there's been a request to pull that item.
Item E?
Yes.
Yes.
We all in agreement? Mm-hmm. All righty, we'll pull that item. And now we have proclamation for Constitution Week. Here, we'll do this one. We'll make this work.
Okay.
Okay. That one's working. This is a proclamation for Constitution Week, September 17th through the 23rd, 2015. Whereas September 17th, 2015 marks the 228th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper accord to officially recognize this magnificent document, its memorable anniversary, and the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating the week in which September 17th falls as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Richard H. Gilmore, by authority of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Sebastian, Florida, and on behalf of the Sebastian City Council, do hereby proclaim September 17th through 23rd, 2015 as Constitution Week in the city of Sebastian, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution held in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. And so here to accept this is you. Thanks so much. Come on over here. So you want to say something?
Absolutely.
Karen?
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm a member of the Treasure Coast chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. The tradition of celebrating Constitution Week began in 1955 when the Daughters of the American Revolution petitioned Congress to set aside the week of September 17th through the 23rd in observance of the United States Constitution. Observance was signed into public law by President Dwight Eisenhower. Since the United States Constitution is the basis for America's great heritage and the foundation for our very way of life, I'd like to thank everyone for keeping the tradition, the celebration of the tradition for us. And it's very much appreciated, and thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Here's your proclamation. Okay, we have Cindy Weber Alves here. Come on down. You're going to tell us about Friday Night Done Right, I guess, right?
Hi, good evening. I am going to talk about the SAFER Coalition, which is a coalition that has been in existence for a few years now through the Substance Awareness Center of Indian River County. And what we do is we target our youth and we try to
Excuse
make...
me, can we get you to talk into the mic? I'm a little hard
That
of
one over
hearing.
there. There we
and
go.
I haven't got my hearing aids yet.
It's not a problem. Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. The SAFER Coalition targets youth, and we try to offer them better decisions and better things to do than underage drinking and drug use, which seems to be a problem in our community. Just a little back history. I've been a resident of Sebastian for 22 years. I have 4 children that have come up through the school systems, and it was very important when my children were in school to make sure that they were safe and had alternative things to do. So this has kind of been a calling for me to work towards helping all of our children stay safe and have alternate things to do. SAFER is housed in the Substance Awareness Center, which is our fiscal agent, and they are also the Drug Free Communities recipient to fund the projects of the coalition. SAFER is a data-driven, highly active organization focused on implementing environmental changes and strategies to impact our Indian River County youth and a community and reduce substance abuse in our young people. The coalition's mission has been exclusively focused on youth. We are well positioned in Indian River County. We are in all of the middle schools. We are also targeting the high schools to implement evidence-based programming through our educators. Through strong community coalition and connections, SAFER has worked diligently to support itself without ongoing funding to both continue its mission for reducing underage substance use and to ensure sustainability. And the mission of SAFER is to empower and mobilize our community to reduce the use of alcohol, marijuana, and other drugs by Indian River County youth through the use of education, support, collaboration, and action. This is a infographic that was just submitted to us this week that shows the 4-year impact that our life skills program has had in our schools. And I'm sorry that it's kind of shrunk. It didn't fit well into this PowerPoint. I do have copies for everybody that'll show you a bigger picture. And what it shows is that in the 4 years that we've had life skills in our schools, there's a 64% decrease in alcohol consumption. There's a 55% decrease in marijuana use. And there's a 55% in cigarettes or tobacco and 29% decrease in marijuana. And that has been documented by our FISIS survey that the kids take. And currently what we're working on, Friday Night Done Right, is our big campaign that we are starting to put into action. And what it is, it's a social norms campaign that offers the children that are underage and tend to do underage illegal activity an alternative to doing that. We are working right now with Vero Beach High School. We also plan on talking to Sebastian River High School about doing a non-alcoholic tailgating party pre-season before some of the games and offer the kids more fun activities than doing things they shouldn't be doing. We're very excited. Vero Beach is very excited with us, and we're hoping Sebastian will get on board as well. Talk They Hear You is a program that targets the parents of the children, and we are using that right now in our middle schools. We'd like our parents to understand that we do, even though we think they're not listening, and we talk sometimes like we're talking to ourselves, they are listening. So it's very important to continue those positive messages and to make sure that our kids understand that alcoholic and underage activities not only impact them short term, but it also impacts them long term. We are working very closely with the Sheriff's Department, and we do retail alcohol compliance checks quarterly. We go into the local vendors that sell alcohol, and we are working with youth that don't look underage. They go in, and we're checking to see if the vendors are asking for ID before they sell alcohol to minors. This has been very successful, and our intent is to keep the retail alcohol vendors compliant with what the laws are in place. There's also a program called Lock It Up. We found that over 30% of our high school students are drinking, if not in their own homes, in homes of their friends. So we are encouraging by signage and posters that we have displayed in all of our middle schools right now to have the parents please lock up their alcohol. How can you help? As a citizen, as a planning body, you could be consistent with your messaging. You can be an example, a positive influence, and be encouraging. And again, these are our campaigns that we're working on. These are all of our community partners that collaborate with us, and we have many more that are going to be coming on board. We are very active in getting more members in the community involved in our coalition. And SAFER stands for Substance Abuse Free Indian River, in case I didn't say that in the beginning. Our next meeting actually is tomorrow at 12:30 at the Boys and Girls Club, and we hope if you can't make it tomorrow, I would be happy to put you on a mailing list that we let know where all the events are. I've got business cards and flyers for everybody here this evening. Our community is definitely our future. And it is myself as the coalition coordinator and my partner who is not with us tonight because his wife decided to have a baby on Friday. So we're happy for him. He was with us last week when we came for the Youth Advisory Committee and talked about Friday Night Done Right. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Under brief announcements, I would remind everyone that Friday, September 11th, we will be celebrating. We'll be in the park again for Patriot Day remembrance of 9/11 at Veterans Memorial in Riverview Park at 8:43 a.m. That's getting larger and larger every year, so come early for a parking spot, and we have hundreds of people show up every year, hundreds. So that will be Friday, actually 2 weeks, I guess it is, from tomorrow. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none. Just a brief announcement. I don't know exactly whether all the counties have voted for the inclusion of our city cooperative, but I did check, and Martin County approved it last week. So last week on the 18th, Martin County did approve our coalition. We were attempting to get a hold of the attorney to try to find out if any of the other counties had already voted, but hopefully by September 4th, we'll be on that council. So there we go. Our next item of business is number 7, the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve items A through D.
Second.
Okay. Sally, roll call, please.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Coy?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McPartlin?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to item number 8, committee reports and appointments. The Natural Resources Board, I believe the alternate member, Mr. James Clifton, is here, and he would like to move up to the to be on to the regular board. And then we have 2 applicants for the, is that correct?
One withdrew yesterday, and we emailed you yesterday. Mr. Kroll withdrew.
Okay.
Mr. Waragoda is also here tonight. He
Okay.
would like to.
So, council, what's your pleasure?
I would make a motion to move the alternate up and to place the only other applicant we have in the alternate position.
I would second that, but I would also like to say hi to the new gentleman, Mr. Waragoda, took the time to be here. Could he
Come on
just
up,
and-
say
and
hello.
we say
Thank you for your
welcome him?
service. Let's meet.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you for applying.
Yeah. You want me to tell something about me?
Well, if you
Just a
want,
little
sure,
bit,
a little bit.
because
Okay.
I read your bio already,
Right.
but let the public know who you are.
Good evening, Mayor and the members of the council and the others present here. My name is Kirti Veragoda. I worked for the government of Sri Lanka and retired in 2004. And since my son is working here and is living on Tulip Drive, I moved over here and now I am a citizen here. So since then I have been here living in city of Sebastian. And I thought I would be able to contribute something for the voluntary contribution for the betterment of the city. So that's why I applied for this. Because natural resources is a subject that I have been handling in my work in Sri Lanka, because natural resources everywhere all over the world, which as nature has provided, and for the human beings to utilize them for the benefit of the next generations. And also my academic training is also with regard to the use of natural resources and what are they and how we can best use them for our benefit. So that's why I applied for this. So I leave it to you. If you consider me suitable, I'm available for your service.
Well,
Thank you.
congratulations. You are now on an alternate position, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that Mr. Clifton is here as well, in case you wanted to ask questions.
Would you like to come up and say a word or two, or just? Okay.
Jim is our water tester. Yeah. So I really want to say that we have been blessed. The last 4, 5, or 6 years, we've been blessed with really qualified people. There was a time when it was hard to get anybody to come forward to be on the boards, but that time is long gone, thankfully. So we've had some wonderfully qualified people to apply for our different boards. So.
And with Mr. Waragoda's experience now, I mean, you're getting worldly experience to the board. So
Absolutely.
yeah, this is great.
Very good. All right, we have no public hearings. We do have unfinished business, and there is under 10A, we have review and comment on the Federal Rail Administration. Do we have, is Frank going to do that, or was that going to be you, Ken?
I was expecting him to speak on it. He had a little slide he was going to throw up, I believe.
Here we come.
I don't know where he is.
Come.
He's coming.
He's coming. He's running. He's running now.
He will be right with you.
Mr. Watanabe,
Yes, sorry about that.
that's fine.
Frank Watanabe, the city engineer. I just want to highlight a little background on the quiet zone and where we were and where we are today. So I want to show this on the Elmo. Is it on?
It was. It just went off.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
There you go.
There you go. I apologize. Just wanted to highlight where we've been with the quiet zones. Again, just from last year to today, where we are, from June of 2014, we were in the process of looking at a quiet zone per council direction. We actually looked at the existing inventory and updated the inventory under the Federal Rail Administration's requirements. Soon after we did that, we identified what they call supplemental safety measures. Those are the quiet zone, quad gates, median islands. On the current all aboard Florida, the list under the environmental impact statement shows quad gates and tri gates, so we kind of match up pretty well. We ran the calculator, which determines the risk factors, and where the quiet zone risk factor has to be less than the national, which we did. I ran all 6 of our corridors crossings from Main Street all the way down to Barber Street. I also ran it through the Federal Rail Administration. They verified it. Everything looked good. So we submitted all the information to FDOT. FDOT Rail is the key component between us and the Federal Rail Administration. So we did that as well. And at the same time, we did some rough cost estimates because we didn't have the all aboard Florida cost estimates. We just did some rough estimates in terms of what the quad gates would cost, if there's median island improvements, sidewalk improvements, road crossing improvements. We did that as well. Submitted that all to the Federal Rail Administration. He approved the numbers, and we forwarded that all as a package when we submitted for our FDOT grant. Last year, was 2014, there was an FDOT grant available. We submitted it on time. That was in October. They accepted the grant. They accepted our application. They said, we're going to put you on hold because we're waiting for All Aboard Florida. We have All Aboard Florida with these railroad crossing plans that's going to give us cost estimates, improvements, and a potential, they call it a sealed corridor crossings. So we all agreed, let's put it on hold. But you're secured for the grant. That was agreed upon by FDOT, as well as by All Aboard Florida, as well as by the Federal Rail Administration. So that's on record. You know, I've talked with FDOT as well. So that's where we sit in the past. Today, as of August 15th, we're still waiting for these 90% plans. As soon as we get the 90% plans or the 100% plans and they meet the requirements of what they call a sealed corridor crossing, because they can't use the word quiet zones. Only a local city or county municipality can ask for a quiet zone. The moment we get the plans and the numbers look good, we submit that to FDOT and FRA, and then we submit our notice of intent, and that starts our clock. You have so much time after you submit the notice of intent to move forward with your project. That means who's going to fund it, who's going to improve it, when the construction is going to start. So that all ties back with All Aboard Florida. So that's where we sit, just in a nutshell, just a little summary. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Just a couple comments, but I'll wait for any other.
No? Go ahead.
Thank you very much for that update. 2 weeks ago, we had the update here, and I told you that we had discussed it at MPO, and I know Councilmember McPartland was there, trying to encourage the county to look at quiet zones. There still was no interest, though, at county level. But that's okay. We are a municipality. We are entitled to go forward, and we have been moving forward since June of 2014 on quiet zones. Well, I woke up the very next morning 2 weeks ago, the day of Florida League of Cities, and was watching WPTV Channel 5, and right after telling folks on TV, hey, we're still pursuing the quiet zones, and it's coming, be patient, we're looking at it. Isn't there a news story? No one on the Treasure Coast is getting quiet zones. No municipality has even looked for it. Da, 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 da. Well, I got on the phone at 5:15 in the morning to WPTV Channel 5 down in West Palm Beach, said, "Hi, I'm Andrea Coy, Sebastian City Council. Your story is not true. The city of Sebastian, for well over a year, is dedicated money, time, effort, and lots of hours pursuing quiet zones." Well, to their credit, Channel 5 jumped right on it, and by 5:30 corrected the story on TV. Bravo. Thank you, Channel 5, for paying that much attention and caring enough to get the story right. Now, here's the big disappointment. And though Janet Begley is here, she had nothing to do with this. This story was not written by her. And the same day in our Press Journal newspaper was a big, long article, which is where the TV station got their news. And I told them their news story was incorrect. I called the author of the news story. I believe her name was Lisa Brote, wrote the article. I didn't know Lisa, I've never met her. I don't know who she is. But there was a phone number. So I called and left a message for her. I called and left a message for Larry Reisman, our community local editor guy that I've known for years and years and years. And I called and left a message for Mr. Brunges, the owner of the paper, to please call me back. And now, mind you, I'm still driving down I-95 or up I-95 in the B line and going to Florida League of Cities. Well, a guy by the name of Arnie finally called me back around 10 o'clock in the morning. And I said, "Arnie, who are you?" I don't know Arnie, and I didn't call an Arnie. Arnie is an editor from the Press Journal. And I said, "Well, where are you located?" "Well, Arnie lives in Stewart." Arnie's from Stewart. And Arnie was Lisa Brote's editor. And when I said, "Well, Arnie, we've got to correct the story. This story is not correct. It's wrong," Arnie chose to disagree. And now I'm driving, and I don't have access to the article. It got ugly. And I said, "Listen, Arnie, let me call you when I get checked into my hotel and I can get back to this article, because I'm not done yet." In that conversation, editor Arnie chose to tell me that talk is cheap, Andrea, which all but called me a liar. And I did not appreciate that at all. In fact, when I got to my hotel room and checked in, the first thing I did was call that lovely editor Arnie back, read the article to him, the parts that I objected to, had him call our city manager. He spoke to our city manager. He might have even spoke to Frank. I'm not sure if he talked with Mr. Watanabe. Anyway, Arnie's only concern that day, and I dropped it after that. I'm done with it. His only concern was being right, and I even told him so. I said, "Arnie, you're not interested in the story. You're not interested in information. All you're interested in doing is defending yourself and your story. You just want to be right." And I said, I thought about your statement, talk is cheap, and I took offense to it. But you know what, Arnie? You're right. Talk is cheap. And for years and years, I've been threatening to cancel my subscription to the Press Journal. And I am putting that talk into action on Monday morning as soon as I get home. So, folks, I no longer read the Press Journal. I will not waste another nickel when they can't take the time to get a story right. They have ignored us in North County over and over and over and over. So I am recommending to everyone I see, I'm going to get big buttons that say, "Ask me why I dumped the Press Journal." And the reason is they dumped us years ago. I'm done with it. I'm not spending another nickel. I don't recommend our businesses or anyone else spend another nickel. They don't care about us. Wow, is my blood pressure up? I'm going to shut up and sit back and relax.
Could you add an addendum to that, that is your personal...
It is
and
my...
it's not the policy of the city of Sebastian. Would that be appropriate, Mr. Ginsburg?
I do. This is my opinion and my opinion only. But I'm setting the record straight. I am tired of having to apologize and correct their stories when they can't get it right. I am tired of getting phone calls from people who you opened the door again, Mr. Mayor. I was about to be quiet. So I'm tired of that.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. Yes, it's my opinion only, but I'm done. So if you have any stories, give me a call. I'll share them.
Item B,
Mayor Gilmore,
yes.
could I ask that a motion be made to have the mayor sign this response letter to
So
the-
moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. Would there be anyone that would speak on this matter? Seeing none, roll call, please, Sally.
Ms. Coy? Yes. Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Could you give that sheet, the all aboard Florida sheet, to Ms. Begley to give to Arnie?
Will do.
Thank you.
Item number B, I guess you're up again, Mr. Watanabe, for the seawall engineering assessment.
Actually, I'm going to have our consultant. They're here tonight to give a
great.
presentation on the seawall. We have Hoyle Tanner. They were brought on board to do an engineering assessment. They completed the assessment about a month ago. And with that, I'm going to have Doug from Hoyle Tanner give the presentation with his project manager, Wilbur.
And so far, all I've heard was good words about the assessment.
That's great. Great to hear. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Doug Norman with Hoyle Tanner Associates, and I'm joined with the project manager for the seawall assessment, Wilbur Mathurin, tonight, and he's going to be going over the findings that we had on this assessment. First, I just wanted to say hello, and I know you guys don't need to hear this, but it was a pleasure working with the city staff, from Joe Griffin, Frank Watanabe, Tim Walker, and all his maintenance staff. Extremely accommodating, made this project really smooth, nice, accommodating, and did everything we asked, and supported us very much. So I appreciate that, and with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Wilbur, and he's going to go through the presentation.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. As Doug said, my name is Wilbur Mathurin. I served as the project manager on the city seawall assessment. We did the assessment back in June, and we've been working the report ever since. Submitted a final draft to the city, and I want to just go over some of those findings tonight and let them know let you guys know what the report found. Shown on the slide here, you'll see all the areas highlighted in blue. Those are the areas that we assessed. Those encompass the George Street and the South Collier canals, the Elcom and the Schumann waterways. This was about 6.5 miles of waterway, which was about 602 homes, and it also represented about 61,000 linear feet of property if you go down both sides of the canal. Quickly, as we started doing the assessment, we kind of realized that most of the homes, most of the parcels had similar type of materials. The metal on metal shown in the top right, and the concrete transite on the top right, and the metal on metal on the top left were the most common type of materials we saw. The metal on metal is basically that final sheet material with a metal cap, and the concrete transite is that transite concrete that was used back in the 80s, and the concrete cap on that. The rest of the seawalls were made up, about 92% of the seawalls were made up of these materials, and the rest of the seawalls were made up of some combinations of wood materials, ripraps, some various type of materials which only accounted for a small percentage. As you can see, the data, we kind of summarized this into some percentages. The top three items that we found were the earth berm, the concrete transite, and the metal on metal, as I said earlier. This represented about 95%. I said 92 earlier, but it's 95% of the seawalls accounted for these type of materials. The rest, 5%, was concrete metal, riprap bags, concrete vinyl, wood seawall, wood pilings, and wood metal. So as you can see, this is probably because most of the seawalls were built at the same time by the same developer, so they're pretty much similar in nature. As we did the assessment, we got on the waterways. We did most of it in the city staff, as Doug mentioned. Tim Walker and his staff took us down the canals on their boat. We were able to assess visually on both sides of the canals as we went down. A couple areas that we couldn't access by boat, we did got off and did on by foot. What we were looking for, we were just doing a visual inspection of the canals, and we came up with a rating system, which I'll go into the next slide, of how we were going to judge these seawalls. The major type of failures we saw, there were 4 types. There was cracking, When you're looking for cracking, the picture here, we define it as either minor or major cracking. The picture shows major cracking. We basically look at the wall, we look for any type of hairline cracking up to big cracks. And we basically just see, is that cracking in the wall, is it in the cap? And we note that and put that as part of the score value. Then you have joint separation. When they build the seawalls, there are segments, and sometimes you get a vertical shift of the wall, and this causes the wall to separate where the seam is. Either one wall pushes out or pushes back, and this causes that vertical joint separation. On the bottom left, you have tipping. This is basically what happens when the tiebacks that hold the wall, that go into the earth, they hold the wall straight. Sometimes those deteriorate, they get broken, and they give way, and it causes the wall to tip forward. And we call that tipping. And then the last one on the bottom right, you have toe and berm failure. On the bottom of the berms, on the bottom of the seawalls, you have a berm about 2 to 3 feet that's supposed to protect the bottom of the seawall. Sometimes that gets eroded, and that causes the toe to kick out, as shown in the picture. The bottom actually bulges forward into the water. So all these things were the kind of failures we're looking at and when we were assessing our scores. Now to the rating system that we came up with. We kept it pretty basic. We just went with a 1 through 10 rating system and categorized that 10 being the best and 1 being the worst. Anything that was scored a 1 or a 2 was in the failing category. Anything that was a 3 or 4 was poor, 5 or 6 was fair, 7 or 8 was satisfactory, 9 or 10 was good. As you can see, about 92% of the walls were better than fair, which is pretty good for the age of those walls. They have 92% of them in fair or better condition. 5% of the walls were in poor condition, and 3% was in failing condition, those 1s and 2s that we talked about. We also assessed, and in terms of planning, we gave a timeline value to when remedial action would be needed to be taken on repairs. So anything in the failing category, we see that as something that needs to be addressed in the 0 to 2 year time frame immediately. And anything that was in the good category goes out in the long-term plan in more in 15 to 20 year range. The failing homes, as you can see from the list here, those are all the properties that we assessed in the 1 and 2 category, 12 properties. 2 of them were 1s, all the rest were 2s, so there's really 2 bad properties that we saw out there. Those 2 properties have already been surveyed by the city, and the city survey data that was presented to us identifies those as being on private property. And the map just shows the location of those 12 homes. So based on all of this, we just went back and came up with some options. We had discussed this before. I think Frank had given you these options when he did his presentation a while back. And the way we boiled it down was there are going to be 3 options that you can look at for replacing or maintaining the walls. The first option is to do a new seawall directly in front of the existing seawall. So you leave the existing wall in place and you place a new wall directly in front of it. This would have no permitting associated with DEP, and it would have no permitting with St. John's. It would be almost like a maintenance variance that you could get. The second option would be removing the existing wall and putting a new wall back in its place. So just taking the wall, getting rid of it, and putting a new one back. This one would have DEP permitting, but no St. John's. St. John's would look at it as a maintenance item also, but DEP, because those concrete transite walls contained asbestos, you'd have to work with DEP and kind of figure out what they want you to do with the material, whether put it to a special landfill, do some type of remediation when you're taking it out, so you'd have to work with DEP for that option. Option number 3, which we call the hybrid, is basically leaving the existing wall in place, dredging the canal, taking those dredgings, placing it on top of the wall and building a slope and then sodding that slope. So the wall would be in place. Yes, sir?
I just have one question, and that is, would that item, option number 3, would that be in play if you were to, and that is entombing the walls in dirt? Would that still be in play if we were to take the wall and just knock it down and entomb it that way?
if you were to collapse the wall and then entomb it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they would look at that. Dropping the wall. Well, let me say this statement. This option would have, you would have no DEP permitting, but you would have St. John's permitting.
Yeah.
Because even if you drop the wall, or even if you leave the wall in place, that fill-in action, whether it's dropping the wall or putting the spoils and building, you're filling in some of the waterway. So St. John's wants to be sure that your hydraulics are okay. They wanted to make sure that you're not impacting any wetlands or any type of habitat, so you'd have to do some mitigation. So I think either option could work, but either way, you're gonna have to do that mitigation and that permitting effort with that option.
Okay.
So then we took each of those, we made some phone calls, we did some research, and we got a linear foot a unit price for each of these options per linear foot. Option 1, we came up with about $400 per linear foot. Option 2 was about $800, and option 3 was about $425 a linear foot. Option 2, the big difference is the cost of doing that remedial, removing the wall and taking it away. That was about $300 of the $800 was based on removing the wall. So if we extrapolate it out, we looked at the 2017, 2019, which represent 2, 5, 10, 15, and 20-year planning horizons. And we estimated out the cost for each of those years. And you can see the tally. Option 3 ends up being the cheapest option over that 20-year period, about $15 million. And option 2 is about $8 million more than that at $24 million total. And those costs are based on an evaluation of just the entire waterway system if it was, just done completely.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, those are the results, and if you guys have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
I do have a question for you. The seawalls that you have checked on, and it was a question that I had written down here. The vinyl with the concrete cap, were any of the seawalls that were made like that? Did you look at any of the newer seawalls we put in? Or were these all the older seawalls?
These were all the old ones. We didn't go to the north of 512.
Okay.
We stayed everything south of that.
Because when we did the new seawalls on north of 512, we were told that vinyl had a 50-year life expectancy.
Right.
And then when I saw here the vinyl all just in satisfactory of 15 or 20 years, I thought that had a 50-year life expectancy, but...
Right, and I don't know when those were put in. I don't know if the material, they've made probably advances in the material types, and so it may be a newer age material that can last longer.
That's all I had.
I have a couple of questions.
Councilman
Very good report, thank you. I appreciate what you guys have done, and I do like to hear what the staff, how they interact, and I am very proud, as always, of the staff for the way that they interact with those who we have helping us out. The question I have is potentially option 4, which would be repairing the walls as they fail. How many do we have that are failed at this time? 9, I think is what you said.
12.
So we have 12 that are failed at this time, and the rest are in fair or better condition? So I wonder if it wouldn't make more sense to make repairs as we go along. Now, I don't know that we've had that option available to talk about, but I think that's what, should be something that we discuss. What would it cost to repair those 12?
Well, something we noticed is, as we did the assessment, some of the walls did look like they had repairs done, whether it was done by the homeowner, I don't know, but some of the walls, and if somebody saw something happening, they would maybe patch it up with some concrete or try to fix it, and that seems to be holding in place.
Could we see that picture?
Well,
there's a picture that goes with the 12 that are failing.
Okay, but
That shows
and I would assume that
okay.
that the 2% of the walls that are constructed of other materials, not ones that apparently the city put in, were probably put in by homeowners or property owners.
Right.
Would that
like
make sense? So if there's a wooden bulkhead on one of those canals, my guess is that would have been put in by a property owner, not the city. So does the numbers that you show have us encasing walls that are already sodded. Because 30% of the walls, of the banks, are already sodded. Isn't that correct?
37, yeah.
37, so almost 40% of the banks are already sodded. So those are pulled out, are those pulled out of
the
so there's no repairs on those?
Right.
Okay.
We didn't account with the percentages. We took those out. So of the 602 parcels, the number drops to 406.
So we're talking about, so we're talking about 60% of the walls are what we're talking about doing the repairs on. And of that 60%, 12 are failed and need repair. So, you know, we've seen demonstrations of how those walls can be fixed, and I'm not, you know, I know there's going to be issues with what property owner owns it versus the property that doesn't own it. I know that has nothing to do with what you guys are doing. I would assume that's an internal staff issue, but it would make sense rather than, you know, rather than put the city on the hook for a minimum of 15 million over the next, 15 years. That we look at another option of potentially repairing 12, and then in another 5 years repairing 12, and then we've only spent $100,000. I don't know what that expense or that number actually is, but it doesn't seem like the problem that we're looking at necessitates us completely reconstructing all of the walls.
I would agree with that. I would say the assessment and the tool we're trying to give you was to probably look at the worst case scenario, which is, and that's what the cost projection just shows. Imagine you just went and did all the canals all at once.
So it would be reasonable then to say that for about $400 per linear foot, is that we could make the repairs on the existing damaged walls?
It would be probably less than 400 if you're doing just repairs. The 400 is a new wall. If you're doing repairs, the price would probably drop maybe in a half, probably.
Okay, so maybe a couple $100 per linear foot. Now, and I know that there are issues that we have to deal with internally on whose wall it is versus who's going to pay versus who's not going to pay, and I think that those issues will have to be dealt with either way going forward. But it makes sense, and I think it would make sense for this council to get numbers on individual repairs and whether or not that would be a good way to go forward over the next 20 or 30 years. Now, it doesn't seem like through what you've provided us that wall is going to be crumbling in 15 years. It doesn't appear that in 10 years we're going to have 90% failure of that wall. In fact, it seems like we're in pretty good shape. We've only got 12 out of all of the properties along that are in need of repair. So I think that, we're looking at $15 million. That's big numbers. You know, we're talking about basically saying $1 million a year for the next 17 years for these repairs in a long-range plan. I'd like to see, and I suppose it's going to be staff's job to provide us with a less expensive option, not to take away from the product that you've provided us, because this is eye-opening, but if we can, as good stewards of the city, look at a less expensive option, I think we should do that.
Mayor, if you allow me to give an option, and prior to the engineering doing their assessment, we've had some dialogue with residents regarding concerns of their walls, and because of that issue, we did some early investigations, and because of those investigations, other agencies got involved, both St. John's and DEP, and clearly state this is DEP regarding airborne asbestos, not the DEP needing water requirements. The permitting he's talking about is the airborne asbestos, totally different from the waterway systems. And I've had discussions with them, and to educate you again, on individual property sense, they don't get involved on each homeowners on these walls, whether they're asbestos or not, because it's too small. However, if it becomes a city project, we get involved, they will get involved. And in my dialogues with them, if a wall collapsed, in some ways if it did, the best option, they said, and I told them, if it happened tomorrow, right now, I would dump a bunch of dirt and slope it in. And their answer was perfect. That's all we want to hear. And they'll allow that.
Well, and the other thing too is that no matter, and I was very involved in listening to the debate on council 10 years ago about the seawalls that we put in north of 512. To my way of thinking, if we do any kind of wall, it's going to fail eventually. It's not going to last forever. And if we put in either vinyl or metal or whatever kind of wall we want to put in, seawall, 40 years down the road, we're going to have this conversation again because they're not going to last forever. Right. Whereas what was eye-opening to me was 40% of our canal system doesn't have walls. They have the sloping dirt, and we don't have to worry about that. You know, if you have grandkids or small kids that are running around, you don't have to worry about them falling off a 5 or 6 or 7 foot wall into the water. You have a gently sloping bank, which I think makes all the sense in the world if we go in that direction, and I think we should think about going in that direction for these walls that fail, is allow them to fall down, entomb them in dirt, and then if we talk about mitigation, do some wetland mitigation, which we probably will have to do. The wetland mitigation we did around Hardy Park, boy, it's great. It's thriving. And that's one way of treating the water in our stormwater. The thing that we, I think, have to understand is that all of our stormwater goes from our swales, runs off our yards, goes into our swales. From the swales, it goes into larger ditches. From the larger ditches, it goes into the canal system. And some of it's treated in Stormwater Park, some of it's treated in Hardy Park. We have outfalls that treated water ends up in. It goes into the St. Sebastian River. So the canal system is an integral part of our stormwater system. So it's really part of everybody's concern, because the water coming off your yard, the water going into your swale, that's where it's ending up. So, I mean, we kind of own it. The city, and I know that there are some failing walls or walls that are in imminent concern of failure, 2 years down the road, that are on private property. But I think if we go back and look, there were walls that were on private property where we did the seawalls in the North Project. So I'd like us to maybe get a unified vision of what happens when a wall fails. Let's do the right thing, but let's not put a wall that is going to fail again 30 or 40 years down the road. Doesn't make sense.
Right, and I think if I could jump in there, I think it's important too to get as much staff input on this as possible.
Oh, sure.
And this is, I mean, your report is critical to us making the decision going forward as to what we're going to do. And I would assume that if we had a street, for instance, that had 45 or 50% of them failed and filled in, then the city would make a determination as to when to go ahead and
Have that though. That's my interest right now. Is there's 2 clusters on this map where the failures are. The failures, and we've took the Elmo off, okay. But the failures are clustered. There's 2, 4, 6 of them in Bailey Drive and Schumann up in the north end, and then George Street has failures. That's my question. Why are the failures clustered? Why are our serious issues, what's making them serious? That's my first question. And what's going to, and here comes a guy to answer it. Look at that.
Well, some of the things that we saw when we assessed is some of the homeowners have, and in the report we talk about some good practices. You see a lot of these homeowners that have planted palm trees 2 feet from the seawall, and they have sprinkler heads right against the seawall. And these things have helped contribute to some of the failures. And there's and it's in the report. There's 4 or 5 things we say good practices, and I can't tell you those failing homes are contributed to that. The weep holes staying clear and letting the water behind the walls weep out and not build pressure against the wall. Some of the homes had, as Wilbur indicated, a dirt berm to keep that tipping from taking place. There's all kinds of things. For us to go in and really assess why those 3 homes or those 6 homes in either area, why they're clustered, I don't think that there's any secret reason why. I just think that it could have been.
Yeah, I'm just concerned, is there some beyond our control reason, not something that a homeowner did, a water pattern has changed in some way or another. Something has happened that is causing these failures that is not the homeowner's fault. I get the homeowner thing. I just want to know first, You know, when we go fix them, are they going to fail again real soon, no matter what we fix? It's just interesting to me that the failures are clustered together on that whole big system there.
Right. Some of the homes that you see, the home itself is elevated 8, 9 feet above the wall. So that additional pressure on that wall could have been a strong contributor to that as well.
Yeah, I have to go look.
And we have some pictures of those failing homes if you want to look at them individually.
I need to go for a little boat ride.
Okay. Like I said, if they're right behind here, so you can see.
We can offer that boat ride, not a problem.
Tim's staff are very accommodating, so.
Okay.
Well, again, I think to get back to this report and how we do what we need to do going forward, it seems to me like with only 12 failures, that discussion about replacing the entire thing should be over. And going forward and doing repairing as needed, and then we're going to have to let staff work out the logistics of how that's done, whether it's a homeowner's responsibility or the city's responsibility. I don't want to involve this discussion in that. I think, though, that, you know, I wouldn't even be close to voting approval on a $15 million repair when we have 12 walls that are failed.
Well, tonight's not going to be the last of the discussion, and we haven't even heard any members of the public yet. I'm sure we're going to hear from them.
Is there anyone else from council who would have any questions of the folks here? Yes, Vice Mayor Adams.
Hi. Thank you very much for the report. I just had a question for clarification for myself. The numbers that you've given for the options, say for example, option 1, in the first year you had like 400,000 something, 456,000 in 2019, 662,000. Do those numbers represent repairs to those 12 that you identified, or are we looking at the entire system? I'm trying to figure out what these numbers really
entire system.
The entire system, starting from point A and just keep going.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, if you wanted the 12, you basically have to take the linear feet of property for, the 12 properties. Each property is about 80 to 100 feet wide. So you do that times the 400 or whatever option you choose.
Well, 2017 is primarily those failing homes. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, the 2017 numbers, the 456, 738, and 429, are just dealing with those homes that are in that 1 and 2 category in the first 2 years. Mm-hmm. So yes, those are primarily those 12 homes.
Okay.
The 2017 numbers, yeah.
2017 numbers.
The 2019
would be the 3s and 4s. Yeah. The 2025 5s and 6s.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I had.
Any other? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public that would comment? I just have one thing I'd like to say. I think listening to the feedback up here, I think what we should do is request staff to come up with some grant options, okay, for the failure in 2017, as well as, I think, a unified program of going forward, which one of these options are we going to do? Because I can see a mishmash of different options, especially as down the years, as councils change, and I think we ought to have a unified vision of what this should look like 20, 30 years, even when we're gone down the road.
I agree with that, and I would also like to say that if there were a 90-10 or an 80-20 grant match to go forward with an entire project at $15 million, I think then we would be foolish to not look at that. So if that would be something that would be available, then we absolutely would need to look at that, because I would see putting up 10 or 20% of the cost for the replacement if we could get this thing done over the next few years.
Mayor, the only grant right now that's available that I'm aware of, and there's many stormwater grants, but they're mainly for water quality, Section 319 TMDL grants. The only one this qualifies right now is through the St. John's 50/50. They call it the cost sharing. We just received award of our one project through the same program, so it'll be for this coming year, 2016, but we can't apply for this project as a 50/50 through St. John's.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we need a motion in that regard. I don't think we do. I just think need direction for staff to come back to us with a.
Yeah, I agree. I think what this needs a lot more discussion. Having lived through the last seawall over years, we thought we had it, and then poof, we're back again, and we went at it again. This is going to be discussed a lot. This is the beginning of the discussion. Because I can't believe there's nobody here tonight, but there will be when it comes up again. People are going to get introduced to this idea, and they're going to be back. And we're going to be doing the rip. It's going to happen again. We want our new seawalls. We have a right. We have and we're going to go through this again. I know, been there, done that, and it's going to happen, and we need to do the best we can for everybody. It's not, and then when we make our decision,
half the people
we
will
might
be upset.
change it because prices get cheaper and seawall prices go down, and that's what happened the last time. And we have to just roll with the punches on this and go with the best. I'm still interested, though. That's just caught my eye that out of 6-point-some miles, there are 2 clustered areas of failures. I'm sorry that I'm not an engineer, but golly, maybe it's the military. Boop, 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 alarm. There's something was not done correct. Something's wrong in those areas, consistently wrong. If it was all over the board, I could understand it. But so I think we've got a lot of talking to do, and I agree with your assessment. Let's have staff bring some options and invite the public back, and let's get it on.
Okay. Good. Moving on. Item number 9 is public hearings. We have none. Or excuse me, item number 11. We're up to 11. Public input. This is where anybody would, yes, come on down. You're second.
Name is Ben Hawker, Sebastian. I'd like to make a comment on the seawall because...
Could you speak into that microphone there?
I'd like to make a comment on the seawall because the public was asked to come up and then you entertained more on the board. So I'd like to consider this the seawall.
Sure.
I believe the gentleman said the 12 homes that are having a major problem are on private property. Am I correct in that?
No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that.
All right.
2 of those homes were on private property.
I, as a homeowner, having a bulkhead, it's my responsibility to maintain it. Not the city's, and not all of the people in the city to chip in and maintain it. We've got a dilemma with 12. How many of those are actually private seawalls? And why are you reaching into my pocket and the people of the city for a potential $15 million bond issue you're going to have to issue when I, as a owner of that seawall, failed to maintain it? Another suggestion might be put about an 8-foot diameter pipe, 3 of them, right down the canal, use that as a water moving device, put a road on top of it. I don't think that's $15 million. It might be another possibility. Was there anyone else? Because now I'll go to my public input. we're working on Cab Corps. The past 3 weekends, there have been over 60 boat trailers parked in the Cab Corps lot. We're planning to put 35. Is there any way that where the two docks to the southern end of the park, move the boat ramp and utilize that for the boat trailer parking? Otherwise, you're asking people to park their trailers, the surplus overrun trailers, to the overflow parking. And there are many of us that would have a very hard time walking from, after parking the trailer, back to the boat ramp. And it seems like we've got like a little dilemma here. You're looking for the park, you want a lot more parking, but you do close the Cab Corps lot or the boat ramp when you do those functions. Now, putting in extra car parking on a weekend when there's non-function, which there are 6 major functions we do, and you do close the boat ramp. So there's a possibility we could put a lot more boat trailers in there instead of, as I think Mrs. Coy pointed out, we had a truck and a trailer parking in several of the new parking spaces. I think we should have a little more consideration in that area before jumping ahead with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, citizens of Sebastian. My name is Ike Heckle Jr. I live at 3480 Weber Road, Grand Falcaria. I am also the president of Premier Properties of the Space Coast and managing partner of a very exciting project called Space Coast Winter Circle that basically, in a nutshell, we're proposing to bring huge economic impact to the area by putting professional sports stadiums and multi-use racing venues in Southwest Palm Bay, along with public-private partnership with the City of Palm Bay and reconstructing roads. One residential component is Bayside Lakes West, which is basically just a marketing name, no gates going up to the west of Bayside Lakes. 20 years, about 5 phases, about 18,000 semi-custom homes. And then Morpheus, we've called the Motorsports Park a green, renewable energies multi-purpose sports entertainment complex with its own solar plant, its own water supply, and sewer treatment plant. And we're also going to license the air rights to the carriers. And with the 3 stadiums and the 4-lane concrete drag strip that we're proposing, and on note, full disclosure, transparency, without council action, the City of Palm Bay, the mayor, the city manager, has verbally accepted the fact, provided the funding comes in, and everything's done according to, plan. They're welcoming NASCAR, NHRA, and some mud trucks. And there's another very big surprise for the city of Sebastian coming up. Also, the Palm Bay Parkway via a public-private partnership. I just attended a seminar with Florida Department of Transportation right before this meeting, and a couple Indian River County commissioners were there and some staff, so they know about the project. They're very excited about it. Via public-private partnership with the City of Palm Bay, our Florida equity investors and area banks and credit unions, we'll be building the Palm Bay Parkway from Malabar Road to Babcock, approximately 22 miles, with flyovers over Malabar Road and Babcock Street. The new I-95 Micco Road interchange is being developed by a private developer, and the Ellis Road interchange has also been federally funded and is ready for construction. So the Space Coast Winter Circle project is an all-encompassing project that will generate approximately $200 million in annual sales internally and over $300 million of local regional economic impact. That's just the commercial portion. We have something on the planning called Winter Circle Club, which is basically where the sports and the racing stars will timeshare the tracks and be able to live on the facility. 4,500 square foot homes, equestrian state homes, starting around $500,000, private airstrip. That's the Winter Circle Country Club with golf course, polo club, stables, tennis courts, pool and spa, fitness center. Now, my job is to scare up money flows, and I've got Miami-Dade interested, Pitbull, and Medina Capital that put on the eMerge eGov, which Rick Scott was a speaker of, and Miami-Dade Mayor was a speaker of this past May. And a little nervous now talking about this because there's billions and billions of dollars looking at us from Miami-Dade and overseas. And Pitbull's an entertainer, and he likes to have fun. So using him as an example, I talked to the investors. We have potential investors from Vero Beach and Sarasota also, along with some Brevard, Florida investors. And I said, if we put the Winter Circle Yacht Club in Grant Valcaria, we need, deep water access for the yachts. They're going to come up on the yachts in the beautiful Florida Intercoastal, Indian River Lagoon, but there's nothing there. There's no entertainment. There's no fun. So we said, well, what about Sebastian? Then I'd hire him. So I see a smile on the mayor, and we're very excited to bring a lot of economic impact, and provided that I'm just starting to work with you in Indian River County, but I'm sure there's ordinances and zoning and variances and waivers that we could put some nice high-end condos somewhere and have a really nice Winter Circle Yacht Club. So they come in, get in their Porsche.
How high? How high?
Whatever the city and whatever the city and the county will.
It's 35 feet, sir.
Oh, 35. That's more than enough, ma'am. Thank you.
25 feet on the east side of the river.
As I said, we're just starting to work with. I'm very excited because.
Draw a line right there.
So that's about it. I have handouts, and I don't know. I usually get 3 minutes at the city of Palm Bay, but I got 5. So I have handouts. Oh, you're all invited to. I'm an ex-drag racer, by the way. I'm a semi-pro NHRA drag racer. And Mecum Auctions, a little skin in the game. I put $37,000 from Fidelity the past 9 months to pull this thing off. We now have a private builder, actually, that's going to meet with me and say a prayer, because in the middle of September, we're going to Mecum Auctions in Dallas to auction my racing off, and that'll be mid to high 5 figures. And I've got my property, remodeled my property, because my tenant, left me with no well and everything like that. So the Lord is shining on it, and it's huge. I'm very excited. So you're all invited to a Mudding All Out event somewhere in the, I hate to say it, but compound. We all know what that means. I won't say it for investors or marketing, but 3-day event, November 27th, the $10,000 Southern Turkey Nationals. I'm a promoter also. And we have a launch of the Bayside Lakes groundbreaking ceremony. We have an agreement of sale with Mr. Malone, going to purchase our first lot, Lord willing, and got 4 builders lined up, 5 actually lined up to give me some costs, and October 30th, 10 o'clock. So with that, thank you for your time. And welcome to Space Coast Winter Circle, guys. I've got handouts for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else that has any public input for us? Seeing none. We are now to new business, resolution number R15-22.
Yes, let me read this into the record. 12A is a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, amending the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2014, ending September 30, 2015, is provided for in Exhibit A, providing for conflicts, providing for an effective date, 12A.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there anyone from the public that would speak on this? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McPartland?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Coy?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on new business would be number 12B. That's the Indian River County Legislative Delegation, the 2016 legislative session coming up. Discuss and submit participation form for recommended state legislation in upcoming session. Maybe we could review what we asked for last year and how successful or dismally failure.
Yeah.
Last year we asked for help on the condition of the Indian River Lagoon, all aboard Florida, septic to sewer connections, and oyster bed projects. And I have to say that we didn't get any help on any of those. So maybe we could go back with a different list or the same list. I mean, what's your pleasure?
Say the same list. It's still pertinent today.
I agree.
Those are the most important issues that we're facing.
Nothing's changed.
And I would just keep beating that drum until we start getting some action on it.
On the All Aboard Florida, I think we need to focus it towards our necessary goals here in Sebastian, in that we need the corridor safety. We want the 4-quadrant gates at all the intersections, and we're headed for quiet zones.
I agree.
And we need all the help we can get from the state to make that happen so that we don't have to tax our citizens. We want the money from the state and All Aboard Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and that's a message that's probably going to be different from our counterparts in Indian River County, but that's Sebastian's. That's what we need for us.
Your thoughts, Vice Mayor Adams?
I completely agree with everything that's been said, especially this final section about getting the corridor sealed properly and the cost it's going to be for us to get all of that done. So we do need all the help we can get. Even though we've been putting money aside in every budget, we still need more. So
exactly,
we need their help.
And I would remind the legislature that their one and only goal, they're required to balance the budget. That's all they're required to do. And I got a advertisement from a legislator that doesn't even represent us, and he said, "We balance the budget." Well, that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, it's like, hooray, give us a kudo because we did our job. So I don't know, but they balanced it without doing a lot of things that they should have done. So I think we just need to be vigilant and keep hammering on these points.
The safety too, just not the quadrant gates. The other part of the safety issue that I know is in our letter that we're pushing forward to All Aboard Florida in response to the final EIS, but also includes private area yards, like on our Louisiana, where the kids are playing right up against the tracks. So where residential areas abut the railroad, there needs to be safety zones there in the form of fences, physical barriers, so that children can't be wandering through there. And I think that was kind of lacking in the final EIS. It was a little bit mythical, a little sketchy as to whether that was going to happen. That needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else?
Basically agree. The All Aboard Florida, just we're looking at safety utmost. And then I believe the county is going for the legislative session, looking for more of the sewer project down there on Indian River Drive. So I don't know if we piggyback with them and counter that. But then again, the condition of the lagoon is most important, and the oyster bed doesn't change. So.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I may have mentioned this in years past. I don't know. This is a pet peeve of mine. I would like to see every piece of legislation is accompanied by a staff report that explains to the legislature what the current situation is, what the legislation proposes. I would like to see 2 check boxes on that staff report for every piece of legislation. One would be, is this an unfunded mandate? Yes or no? 2, the second one would be, does this impact home rule? Yes or no?
Oh.
That way, when the legislators are meeting in their committees, they at least know that this is an impact of the legislation they're considering. And I think it would help us as entities, cities and counties, which are subject to the legislation that they're considering. So that's That would be something that I would like to see, if you would agree, I suggest to you, in our legislative package.
Let's add that.
So
Let's
we got
ask him to
5
write it up.
We got 5 items, and we make that number 1 at the top, right?
There you go. Yeah,
Excellent.
okay. I think we're in agreement. We don't need a motion on that, do we? Do we need a motion? We don't need a motion. All right. Somebody want to attempt that?
I'd like to make a motion that we include all 3 of last year's recommended items, and that's all aboard Florida, oyster beds, and lagoon, plus Mr. Ginsburg added section on adding 2 check boxes to all legislation.
Second.
Yeah, but didn't last year we also discuss the sewer? I think that was also something that we went forward to.
Sewer, absolutely.
So we had the sewer on
we got
last year.
5
So
instead of
all of the items
I
that
kind
we
of lumped
had.
that into the lagoon. Yes, sewer, that should be
Well,
a separate
yeah.
item.
Okay. Because that kind of piggies back, the county will be looking for that as well, so.
So make that a total of 5 items.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on that? Seeing none, roll call, please, Sally.
Mr. McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor, I'm sorry, Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Coy?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously, and now we're into city attorney matters. Mr. Ginsburg.
Nothing tonight, sir. Thank you.
City manager matters. Mr. Kilgore, do we have anything?
I would just like to assure the council and the public, as far as we have an eye on the storms and the Erica, I guess, is the next possibility. Probably not a big impact, but we are going through this as an exercise, tabletop, if you want to call it, and staff is looking, at firming up our procedures and making sure we do what's necessary. Just wanted to advise everyone of that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Mayor, would you like to tell everyone about how things could change as far as our Channel 25 in case this storm is looking like it's going to impact us?
Sure. In our meeting this morning, I think it was this morning, I offered that on Friday morning, if it looks like it's still coming our way, we're going to take down COS TV, which goes out to AT&T and Comcast now, and we'll replace it with slides with emergency contact information and shelter information, all of that. Most of that comes from Indian River County, part of it from our policies. So we've got that covered. Barbara's going to come in for 2 hours on her vacation. We'll make sure we get that done on Friday. But it shifted a little bit to the east, the last model, so maybe it's going to go out. That'll be good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Councilmember Hill.
The only thing I had was just wanted to let the public know that the city's on this. We've been getting reports from our engineer, our public works director, and city manager of the things that are taking place. So their assets, being the city, are going to be safeguarded. Make sure you watch the news. As of the 5 o'clock, as Ms. Mayo said, it's now a minor hurricane entering just south of West Palm, which is a jog to the east slightly. So it may not impact us that much, but we should always be diligent.
Thank you. Councilmember McPartlin.
No, sir.
I have nothing except just my sympathy to Marion Berry for the loss of her husband. He'll be missed. Vice Mayor Adams.
Just echoing what Councilmember Hill said and Mr. Kilgore, citizens just be prepared, make all the necessary preparations, even though this may not seem like a huge storm. Things can happen, so just be careful and be prepared.
Councilmember Coy.
I'd like to take a moment to say something nice about the Press Journal. I have to admit that they did have a very lovely, brand new 30-second spot on TV, a commercial about Indian River County. It was really nice, really, really nice. Larry Reisman was in it, being a journalist and stuff. But as usual, they totally left out North County. There's not one picture of Fellsmere or Sebastian, but nice stuff in Vero Press Journal. Good job.
Was that nice?
All right, with that, I guess we're adjourned.